Hi everyone, Jarrod Nichol, Executive Director for ProjectCOE.com here again. And after my Midnight Club video review, I decided to tackle Quantum of Solace for the Xbox 360, PC, and PlayStation 3. And the way I say Solace is probably not right, but just bear with me. In fact, you know what? I'm going to refer to it as Quantum from now on. Alright, ever since GoldenEye 007 for the N64, it's sort of been all that anyone can ever talk about when we refer to Bond games. It seems like it's been both its blessing and its curse over the years. I mean, let's go just back in time for a few seconds here. GoldenEye 007 was a revolutionary title from Rare. It really was. It was, and remains, one of the best first-person shooters on a console ever released. It's just, it's one of those masterpiece titles, and there you go. But, when you look at Quantum, which is basically a video game rendition of both Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace, and if you look at the Bond movies, which, I mean, let's face it, this is a this is a video game that's based on a movie property. And GoldenEye is quite different than Casino Royale. For example, there are no longer any gadgets in the Bond series. In fact, the Bond series has pretty much become very similar to the Jason Bourne series. And what that means is, should we actually, remove marks from the game simply because there aren't any gadgets? You know what I mean? We've sort of hit this gray area where GoldenEye has become just so amazing and such a classic in people's minds that we sort of forget that this is a video game series that is based on a movie series. And point to fact here is that Quantum of Solace is based on the movie of the same name. So, it's sort of one of these areas where you have to stop for just a few seconds and start to think about how exactly do we do this. Yes, GoldenEye was a fantastic game, but is it really fair to look back at that game with, all this nostalgia of how amazing it was, and then knock off so many marks from this game simply because it doesn't live up to it? Or should we actually compare it to the movie and see how it actually holds up as a game? So I like to do the latter, and I think you'll be a little bit surprised. Okay, so the normal way I do this, talk about the story first, and pretty well, like I said, it's the two movies. It deals just with a little bit of the story of Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace. So what that means is, if you haven't seen either of the two movies, go see them before you play the game, because there will be spoilers here, there, and everywhere, especially with Casino Royale. So the way they tell the story, I mean, it's sort of like GoldenEye in the sense where, as you're playing the game, you'll get a little bit of transmission there with M and everyone else telling you sort of what you should be doing. Now that's it. I don't want to talk about GoldenEye anymore because, like I said, I want to stick straight with the here and now. And anyways, as new levels load in, you have these kind of computer screens that sort of like a high-tech loading screen, if you want to call it that, where you'll see the different characters' faces, and you'll see, you'll hear their actual voice actors actually saying lines from the movies and sort of explaining what you're doing. What's really interesting is that all of what you see during these load screens is actually from Quantum of Solace itself, which is kind of cool, I thought anyway. But, as always with these sort of video games, the story is very, very loose. It's obviously not going to be this huge narrative. It just sort of gets you into the action, and that's it. So speaking of the action, the entire game is played in first-person setting until you go into the new cover mechanic, which I gotta say works fantastically well, because the enemies tend to flank you quite often, which means they go around you and try and circle you and, destroy you. By using the cover mechanic, it switches the camera into third person. It allows you to blind fire, which works quite well. Or you can do like Gears of War and just sort of pop out and pop out, take out a few guys at a time. Again, this works really, really well, surprisingly well. And the artificial intelligence is smart enough, at least when you're in combat, for you to use the cover system to its full potential. The game uses the Call of Duty 4 engine to a good measure. especially with the first-person elements, you really will feel like you're in control of a quality first-person shooter, not one of these, rickety-dickety, just slapped-together movie property games that are just like, who cares? This actually feels like a quality first-person shooter and a quality overall product. I've heard a lot of people tell me that it doesn't really feel like a Bond game, and I find that quite hard to believe, especially when you go into the cover system and you see Daniel Craig right there. I mean, his likeness is just startling, especially also with the Bond music playing out constantly. It's sort of hard to wonder, like, well, how does this not feel like a Bond game? I can understand with regard to, again, the toys, the gadgets, all this sort of stuff. Yeah, there's none of that. This is just a bare bones, strict, go here, do this, quite linear sort of experience. But at the end of the day, it's fun, and that's what really, drove it home for me, was that it was a really, really fun game. It's not perfect, okay? Like I said, it is linear. So right there, that sort of takes out a few things. There's a lot of these quick button press events that I've never been really fond of, because it does take you out of the element. So when you're up against, say, like some sort of a boss character or something like that, it'll just take you right out of the action and just sort of, press X, press A, press this, press that, and you're just like, damn it. But something else that is not entirely perfect is the stealth system. It works, it's just that I found when they really want you to use stealth, all the enemies will be facing the other way, or they'll have quite simple patterns, which is kind of disappointing. Anyways, something that I did like, though, was when you have to hack into cameras and sort of, just stealthily get across an area without these big spotlights finding you. Just little things like that that go a long way to giving you that feeling of being James Bond, which is the whole point. Anyways, outside of the core gameplay, which, like I say, is a lot of fun, just not overly innovative, there's quite a few different multiplayer modes, online multiplayer modes for you to enjoy. Now, I know Ahmad Mosley, one of our oldest members of Project COE, he was quite vocal about the offline multiplayer and how there is none. And I gotta agree with him there. You see, there I can go back and actually talk about GoldenEye 007 for the N64. I don't really understand what is going on with all these game companies sort of just saying, you know what, it's online multiplayer only or LAN. I mean, I like LAN parties as much as anyone else, and I love online multiplayer, but at the same time, when you have a group of buddies over, it's fun to just do some split screening, or do hybrid, where you have split screening and going online as well. So, I mean, he has every right to complain, and I'm right there with him. It's really unfortunate, and it does hurt the overall product, especially when here's the number one problem with the game. You can beat it faster than you can watch both movies, and I am not joking. If you play this on normal, you could probably beat this game in about 4 hours. Couple that with online only multiplayer, and it just doesn't have the longevity that it requires. Audio-visually, it's quite an impressive game. The Call of Duty 4 engine is used to very good measure. Again, I've heard quite a few complaints about it being very generic. I don't really find that. I find it's quite a polished experience. If you're in first person, yeah, you don't always necessarily know that you're playing a Bond game, but again, this is based off of the two movies. So if you know the two movies, well, sure, it's going to feel like a Bond game, because a lot of the areas you will recognize from the two different films. Especially the audio. I mean, the entire cast from the movies is present, so there's no possible way for you to be like, well, I haven't heard these people before. As for themes, it's, like I say, it's got all the James Bond, the classic James Bond theme that and it's put to really good measure. And it's got the music from Quantum of Solace, not the main theme, that is, but just the actual, background music. So there you have it. That's Quantum of Solace in a nutshell. I thought the game was pretty deserving of the 7.8 I gave it, and I hope you get around to giving it a go. Thanks for listening, everybody. Take care.